our contestant, Greg Bennick. The road to love is paved with good intentions. The road to love is paved with good intentions. Greg Bennick.
So there I was, lying on my back in the Southern California sun, thinking about my relationship and the path that had led me there. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I come from a long line of experts at failed relationships. Take my great-grandparents, for instance. In every photo ever taken of them, they stood always this far apart, never closer, always with the same dour look on their face, looking like two bald eagles. Never closer than this, yet they managed to procreate. They gave birth to my grandmother. To say that my grandmother was a cold woman is an understatement. She was the type of person who could suck the love, the life, right out of a room simply by walking in and looking at me. I remember once she sat me down with my grandfather as well. I could tell they had something really important to tell me because they both had their teeth in. My grandfather looked at me and he said, "Gregory, you're a good Jewish boy. I have a question for you." He turned and looked at my grandmother. He was my grandmother's henchman. She gave him a slow nod. "Gregory, do you know what'll happen if you marry a non-Jewish girl?" And I thought, yeah, maybe I get to spare myself a life of having to live with a woman like my grandmother. "Gregory, if you grow up and you marry a non-Jewish girl, your grandmother and I will not love you anymore. We will mourn you as if you were dead." And I thought, wow, can I have some milk and cookies now? These two lovebirds gave birth to my father. My father was another expert. On his first date with my mother, he took her to his college so that they could register for his classes. There is nothing romantic about that. Yet, for some reason, my mother kept coming back again and again for more dates. They got engaged. And my father, rather than buying her an engagement ring, used his money to buy himself a convertible. My mom's mom, Nina, thought it was so funny that my dad had bought that convertible that she didn't talk to my father for 25 years. Well, after they got married, their desperate attempts at romance continued. For their first wedding anniversary, my father bought my mother a hedge trimmer. Years later, when we were living in Connecticut, where there's a lot of snowfall, my father bought his and hers snow shovels. He gave them to my mother, but he had labeled them hers and hers. Growing up, I saw and heard about these stories, and I thought, I have to do something different. I could follow a different path. And I decided I could be a yes man. Yeah, that's right, a yes man. I could always pay attention to my partner. I could always listen. I could buy better anniversary presents. And I thought, this is a perfect idea. But the problem is that overcompensating also comes with a price. I remember my last relationship, which ended 5 years ago or so. I was in an argument with my ex. Perhaps you know this argument. It's the argument about nothing. This is an argument about the argument itself. It reflects and folds in on itself. Our argument was essentially about the following statement. I had said, "Thanks a lot for picking me up at the airport. I really appreciate it." "What do you mean?" No, I mean literally, thank you for picking me up at the airport. I appreciate it. "Why are you being like that?" Why am I being like what? Defensive. I'm not being defensive. And in that moment, I heard the one word that ends all such conversations. Whatever. My ex walked away from me. She walked across a busy street, and as she made it to the other side, I watched her go, and I thought, I can't believe this. I can speak to anybody, and I can't communicate with my girlfriend, the woman I love. I started running across that street. I just had to connect with her one more time. I looked to my left, a car screeched to a stop. I kept running. I looked to my right, a car screeched to a stop, but 1 second too late, bang! It hit me and I rolled up on the hood. I fell off onto the street. So there I was, lying on my back in the Southern California sun, thinking about my relationship and the path that had led me there. And all I could hear was my grandfather's voice saying, "You see what happens, Gregory, when you date a non-Jewish girl? This is what happens. You should feel guilty a lot." I realized I had to break this tradition. Love is not about disconnection. It's not about threats. It's not about bad gifts. And it's certainly not about overcompensating. Fellow Toastmasters, love is about being present in the moment, paying attention to our partner, yet at the same time paying attention to ourselves, to the desires that we have and the voices and the feelings that we have in our heart and the thoughts in our mind. Fellow Toastmasters, you can do this, we can do this, without getting hit by cars. That's the gift I came to share with you tonight. I just saved each of you a trip to the hospital and weeks of recuperation. It's absolutely true that while the road to hell might be paved with good intentions, the road to love certainly doesn't have to be. I'm Toastmaster.